Hey guys, what's up? JK with Porn Reboot here. Today I'm going to be speaking about a topic that I know a lot of you brothers have been struggling with, and that is wondering why it is taking you so long to reboot. And in order to do this, I'm going to be sharing my experience, and I will share with you why it took me so long to reboot. Now, a little bit of context before I get started. The longest time that I had gone without porn and masturbation prior to relapsing was 16 months. And once I got to 16 months, I slipped. I have a video where I talk about that story, but I slipped and I fell into a relapse, and that lasted for about 3.5 to 4 months. After that, I recommitted to my recovery, got myself a mentor, and I recovered. It took me about 18 months that time around. Now, I had tried probably thousands of times prior to that. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that I did, some of the behaviors I had, some of the thoughts that I had that caused me to take such a long time, years, to recover. When I was trying, I wasn't unaware of my behavior. The first thing that held me back and put me in a position where I spent many more years than I should on recovery was using only willpower. Now, many of us have an ego. I did as well, and I believe that if I could go for 2 months of porn and masturbation, if I could get to close to 90 days on my own, I felt that there was no reason why I shouldn't be able to go for 2 years or a year or 6 months. So because of that, I kept going back to willpower. I kept believing that willpower was enough to get me through. But as most of you may have realized, and as many of you will come to realize, fortunately or unfortunately because it takes so much time, willpower can help you end your behavior with pornography. You can definitely beat it, but it's going to take so much time. And in that process, if you don't develop coping skills, if you don't find out what your pain is that you might be medicating with porn and masturbation, well, you may rewire your brain, but you still have all these issues to deal with. So that was the first thing that held me back using willpower. The second thing was beating myself up every time I slipped. Now, I've mentioned this before, but when you fall into the habit of beating yourself up, which is a natural reaction to slipping, a natural reaction to falling short on a goal that you've set for yourself. But when you do that, there's a tendency to forget everything that you've learned. You may have learned some important things about yourself, about your willpower. You may have learned some things about your triggers, boundaries, some limiting beliefs that you have, but you become so focused and so emotional. Oh, you're so stupid. Why did you slip? Why? You were doing so well. Now you've got to start from the beginning. You become so despondent. You go online, you go to forums, you go to group. You're like, guys, you know, I was doing so well and I slipped. Now I feel bad about it. It's the end of the world. You forget the things that you learned in the process. On top of that, the guilt and shame that you've built up over the years from slipping, you make it a deeper groove. It's like you can slip and you can draw a line on water. It goes away. It doesn't stay. But when you slip and you beat yourself up and you feel so depressed about it, that's like taking a hammer and chisel and drawing that pain into marble. You want it to be as if you're drawing a line through water. At first it'll seem as if you're running your finger through sand. The pain is still going to be there, but later on it's going to be, wiped away by the wind or whatever. So don't make your pain so deep, because you only create more issues for you. So the more you mourn your slip, the more pain that you ironically create for yourself, and the longer it takes you to recover. So my recommendation is to stop beating yourself up every time you slip. Instead, use it as an opportunity to set a boundary. It's okay. You slip to the same thing 2-3 times. That's fine. Find out what a boundary is you can set. What is the self-care that you can engage in that's going to prevent you from engaging in that particular behavior that caused you to slip? What is the coping skill or the tool that you might need? The third mistake that I kept making was testing my erection. So I would get to whatever, 2 weeks, a month, and then I would start having morning wood again, right? I would be in the shower and I would have a hard on and I would test it. I want to see if I can, still get a little bit aroused, because the truth is, depending on the level of your addiction, sometimes you don't get regular erections. The only time you can get erections is when you're viewing pornography. So you have an erection and you're fascinated. Oh my goodness, an erection. You're there in the morning, in the bed or in the shower, edging, and the next thing you know, you slip. Some of you start testing with, let me watch some porn and see if I have any sort of reaction. I really want to find out what's going on. And you end up slipping. I did this a handful of times. It's pretty silly, but it's a mistake many of us just keep making over and over again. There's nothing to test. I want to test to see if I still have PIED, so I'm gonna watch. Come on, guys. Don't test your erections. Don't test to see if you have a reaction to pornography. Just go through with the reboot process. This mistake ruined many good things I had going for me just because I decided to test my erection. And sometimes you test your boundaries too. You might be like, I haven't drank in a while, I haven't slipped. If I drink a little bit, I don't think I'm gonna slip because I've been doing pretty well. And you drink and you don't slip, but the next day you have a hangover and you slip. I used to do the same thing with weed. Over 10 years ago, I used to smoke weed. I don't anymore, but back then, every time I smoked, I would slip. There was no exception to the rule. But sometimes we get a little bit cocky. We go for 3 weeks without pornography and it feels like 3 months. We feel like we're in control. We feel amazing. We feel at the top of the world. And what do? We test. We push those boundaries. We get on Instagram. We get on Facebook. We get on social media. We get on those sites that trigger us as well. And we end up slipping. The fourth thing that really held me back was my obsession with the fear of failure. Now, we have slipped so many times, hundreds of times, thousands of times. And sometimes we really build up this disbelief, like, can I really end this behavior? Or am I just gonna live with this forever? You might watch my videos, any other person's videos, or listen to podcasts or read books and go like, are these guys full of shit? Can we really beat this, right? And then you develop a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear of slipping and relapsing. And the longer you go without pornography, the more that fear is. In fact, if you guys watch a few videos back, my interview with Keith was off porn for 2 years. But he experienced a lot of anxiety. He experienced just the constant fear of slipping. That fear disappears when you have a system. Because when you have a system, there's something that you can follow step by step. When you're just using willpower, even if you recover, you just did it through willpower. It took so much energy, mental energy. So you dread starting the process again. You dread slipping and having to rebuild all that willpower to do it all over again. And that's the benefit of a system, because a system is effortless. Step 1, step 2, do this and do this. If this happens, then you do the next thing. Everything is laid out, so you have confidence. You're like, you know what? Even if I slip, that's absolutely fine. I know where I slipped. I can look at the system and go like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back here and continue from here. Does that make sense? But before there was a system, of course, for me, there was fear and there was willpower. So I lived in fear, and ironically, that fear will cause you to slip eventually. You're going to sabotage your reboot. The fifth thing that was holding me back was not developing the appropriate coping skills for very strong emotions. I used to get really angry and I used to get really depressed. I got angry because I wasn't where I wanted to be in life, and I experienced a lot of shame in my life. And in order to not experience the shame, I would lash out at people. I experienced a lot of depression, and I was very sad because it had to do with relationships in my case. I had a deep need for intimacy. I wanted a girlfriend, that's the truth. And I was awkward, women didn't find me attractive. There was a comment that I removed the other day. It was a little bit rude, just the language that he used, but somebody was watching one of my videos looking at me now, and he goes like, that's completely BS. I don't believe that a man who looks like you and a man who carries himself like you ever had any problems with attracting women or with being in a relationship. And all he's seeing, and I know some guys think that, that's why I'm bringing this up, but all he's seeing is who I am today. All right, this was over a decade ago. All right, and if you go on my Instagram, my personal Instagram is at JKAmazy. Anything you see there is not posted by me, my team posts it. But if you go there, you'll see pictures of me. There's some comparison pictures when I was younger, and you're like, well, this is definitely not the same guy. A lot of work went into improving myself. And back then, I looked very different, I acted very different, I did not have any of the skills that I have now. I did not carry myself with a confidence which I do right now. And because of that, women were not attracted to me. That was the truth. I felt very, very depressed, and I did not have any skills to deal with that. For me, it was smoke weed, drink, play video games, distract myself, and of course, watch pornography. So every time that I was trying to end my behavior and I got to a certain period, certain number of weeks, certain number of months, because I hadn't developed the coping skills, eventually the pain of my loneliness, the pain of my lack of intimacy, the pain of my depression will cause me to slip. The final thing that held me back over the years was my refusal to fully commit to recovery. And what does fully commit mean? Fully commit means commitment. It means doing something long after the emotion that was present when you made that decision has gone. And I committed to so many things. I committed to so many boundaries. I committed to many behaviors, many self-improvement things that I would do. But at the back of my mind, I wasn't in all the way. I still had little thoughts like maybe one day I'll be able to watch pornography in moderation, just a little bit. Maybe I'll be able to just masturbate like a regular guy. I wanted to be normal without accepting the fact that I had damaged my brain. And yes, the brain is plastic. Yes, it's going to rewire itself. But in the long run, it would be best for me to not engage in certain behaviors that I've noticed kept causing me to slip. But I couldn't accept that. So I did not fully commit to all these things. I was just like, I'm going to do these things until I feel good. So I'm going to go to the gym and work out until, I feel like I've been off porn for a certain amount of time and my body looks a certain way. And that was where it ended. Nothing was a lifelong commitment. And that's difficult. That takes some maturity. A lot of guys complain, oh, JK doesn't work with guys under the age of 25 because he's looking for guys who have money. No, the reality is many guys, until they've hit the age of 25, don't have the maturity that it takes to truly commit to something, to commit to a relationship, to commit to a career, to commit to a business that you're going to be in. Like, I'm going to do this for 5 years. Why? Because when you're in your early 20s, it seems like you have all the time in the world. But for guys, once they hit that 25-year mark, for many guys, it's a time where they start reflecting on their life and they go like, hey, the next step is 30. And there are a lot of responsibilities that come with that. Right? So commitment is a very, very important thing. And no offense to my brothers who are under the age of 25. I know there are many of you who are very mature, and there are some men under the age of 25 who are my clients, but they are really the exception to the rule. Anyway, I did not fully commit. That was one of the things that was holding me back. And I want you to ask yourself if perhaps that might be one of the things that were holding you back. So brothers, that's it. That's why it took me so long to reboot. It's nothing complicated. It was just a few basic things. It's simple, but it's not easy, and it's easier said than done to change all these things. That's why you're here. So if you would like to learn more about the system, if you would like to figure out, you're like, yeah, Jake, I identify with that. That's holding me back too. And you would like to learn how to fix that, there are different ways that I can help you. One way is you can start by downloading my free ebook, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men. There's a link to it in the description below. The second way is to join our free Facebook group. So that's where you can get yourself an accountability partner and you can be around men who are serious about recovery. The men in the group are learning the system. They are no longer doing willpower stuff. You'll see guys there talking about stop vapping and different things like that, but we will quickly put them on the right path to the system so that they can begin their recovery. And finally, if you're like, JK, I really want to speak to you directly. I'm over the age of 25 and I feel like I want to move past this. I'm about to get married. I'm about to have a kid. My wife left me. I'm in the middle of a divorce because she found out about my porn addiction, or my porn addiction contributed to it. I'm at a point in my life where I should be accomplishing more, but my porn addiction is really holding me back from my potential. Then go ahead and reach out to me. It's elevatedrecovery.org/apply and find out if you're qualified to, get on a call with me and perhaps be admitted into one of our programs. And finally, brothers, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment. I respond to every comment that makes sense. Okay? But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you later in the week.